tried that, I was like, oh, this is pakka se abortion.
I was reading for another quiz. I think Parul was in it, and question passes to her the abortion question, and I can see in her eyes that she's thought of the answer, but she doesn't want to say it. Okay, so she'll like you can just see it in her face, and then she just says pass. Goes to next person. Next person says abortion. She's like, no, I knew it. I knew it. I just didn't think you'd make a question about it. Okay, sorry.
Sometimes like it does happen, right? Like the answers are like so clear. Like even the Trojan horse, I think that was the first question. And I was like, it can't be Trojan. Can it be? Like it's so it's so obvious.
Right. Okay. So we'll start. Okay, I already started recording. So I'll be sharing my whole screen just so you can see, what I'm typically looking at. I use a single screen. It might be easier if you have a monitor, but I use a single screen on the laptop and it works out fine for me. Let me just share what I'm looking at. Okay. First thing you need to know is if you're a reader, you come to the draws list and you can see that this is the game that you've signed up for. You can see over here that there's no score sheet link. This is not a problem. Just extend this downwards and what just happened? Why is there no extension to?
So the screen is moving. Now you're back.
Yeah.
I went on for a while. It took me a while to realize that I wasn't there anymore. Shit. Anyway, so I was saying, come to this screen, look for your game. You'll notice that there's no scorecard link next to your quiz right now. So I'll just extend this. And the formula will take care of that. A scorecard link has now been generated for. Oh, sorry, I overrode that. I'll just quickly put it again. There we go. So this is your scorecard. There's almost no changes you need to make over here. The only important bit of information that you just need to confirm once is that this is match 53. Okay, it's going to be correct only. Match 53 is the one that they filled up the form for. Match 53 is the one that you're going to be doing the scoring for. Okay. You can see that the scorecard that we use, it's an open source app by wikiquiz.org. We've set it to 8 rounds, 4 players, 2 questions per round. We filled in all the other information based on whatever entries there. So like I said, nothing needs to be done from you at this point of time. Now you'll see that I've installed this plugin called FLQL display questions. I will send you a link for this also. I'll put this somewhere in the chat or something. So this is a plugin developed by, I actually don't know who developed this, but somebody from the FLQL team. Fundesliga is another quiz league that uses the same format that we do. So they made this plugin so that in addition to using the scorecard, the questions would also appear on screen. Before that, we used to have to put the questions in the chat. Okay. So now that the plugin exists, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on choose file. Okay. You can still see my screen right now, right?
Yeah.
And these are the 2 files that you will typically receive from us every time you volunteer to read a quiz: a TSV file and a PDF file. Okay. A TSV file is what you have to upload. Okay. I have loaded this question. You'll notice there's no feedback on the screen. I just clicked on load questions and that's it. Okay. So there's nothing on the screen that tells you, yeah, loading done. But it has been loaded. Don't worry. I'll click on start and we can start the quiz. In addition to this, on the side, what I'll do is I'll also open the PDF for myself.
That you know when to prompt and what the right answers are.
Correct. So
like you would know what the right answers are anyway.
Correct. So I mean, it varies from reader to reader whether you want to go through the questions once before the quiz or not. Some of our best readers do that. Rahul, for example, takes the trouble to go through the entire question list first, and he even reads up a little bit about the fundas that he doesn't know about. And it's good for him also. He is able to enjoy the experience more, and you can maybe give better prompts or something when you know that the organizers themselves have made a mistake. Not everybody does this. There's no pressure to do this at all. You can definitely go through the PDF for the first time during the quiz itself. Okay. So what I'll do is I'll keep this PDF in the background, and the only column I'm going to be interested in is this last column. Okay. Questions are also there, and these colors are there to help me keep track. But I don't read stuff over here. I'll normally be reading questions on this screen. Okay. So let's say I start the quiz. I'll firstly heads up, since you're a reader, you're also sort of the host for a lot of new quizzers. It matters that you welcome them. So at the start of the call, please just say hello and welcome to your week 2 quiz or whatever. People seem to enjoy if you do a little bit of Derek O'Brien-giri, in which you say seat 1 Sahil, seat 2 Snehal, seat 3 Anil, and seat 4 Sai. Welcome to the quiz. Good luck to everybody. Let's go. So once the question start, I'm using the file from our first week, so there are no spoilers here. Once the session starts, typically as a reader, you'll be reading just the content of the quiz. And as soon as you're done, take a look at the clock over here. Okay.
Yeah.
The first person that the question goes to, they get 30 seconds to answer. Okay.
The 30 seconds starts after you finish reading the.
After you finish reading, yes. So as soon as I say people who wrote software, I just take a look up at this. What the mental math that I do is I look at the time. It says 8:00 right now, which means that at 8:20 I will need to say 10 seconds.
10 seconds.
Okay. Again, I should keep stressing this. As a reader, you are in charge. If you feel like the question is complicated and you want to give extra time, give extra time. If you feel like the person is just about to give an answer, like they're almost there, don't stick to the times. The times are not that important. Please exercise your own judgment. The time is only there to keep the quiz snappy. That's all. Okay. So if somebody
while reading the question, no extra information has to be provided. Like no information should be provided other than what is on the screen.
Not at all. So in some
no other explanation.
Yeah, in some cases, I have replaced some words where I thought the question was big, but honestly, you shouldn't be doing that. If the participants sometimes, if they're a new quizzer, if they've not done this format before, they'll sometimes say, "Are you looking for something like this?" And usually the answer is, "I can't clarify." Okay, the question is the same for everybody, and it would be unfair if we only clarified for one participant.
Exactly.
So the question is, what's there on screen? Now about prompts. So you can see over the answers over here. In the last column, usually sometimes one thing is underlined and the other thing is not. Okay. Now, Britney Spears is a bad example for this. Everybody knows Britney Spears. But normally when it's somebody's name, then the surname is the only thing that matters. Okay. Unless the question says, give me the full name. So for example, in the question that says Dame Maggie Smith, if you say Smith, that's an acceptable answer. You don't need Maggie. Okay. So the underlined part is basically telling you the words that should be there in the answer. In some cases, we'll tell you that you can use some of your own judgment to decide whether or not the answer is correct. Okay. Like over here, you can see a nice example over here. We've underlined Newman, even though the surname technically would be one Newman. Okay. This is because some people simply know him as Newman, so it's okay to accept Newman as an answer. Okay. Again, I'll stress this again. Readers do get final say on what happens in a quiz. Occasionally, you will have some cases where you will need to exercise judgment. I'll tell you about a good example from last week. There was that quiz question about Delhi Sultanate questions. And we asked which dynasty was Qutbuddin Aibak a part of. And the answer we were accepting was Mamluk dynasty at the time. And somebody said slave dynasty, and we didn't have that in the PDF. Now we do. After Monday, we added that as accept slave dynasty also. In the first quiz, however, a reader could have said, I know for a fact that that's correct, so I'll give you points for that. And also I'll let the organizers know that they have to fix this. Okay. As organizers, we will stand by everything you do as a reader. Final authority on any quiz is going to be the reader. Okay. Okay, let me just check the PDF. The PDF is, yes, there's anything else I need to tell you. Oh yeah, about hands. Now, in a lot of these online quiz leagues, the convention these days is that you tell all the participants to keep their hands on screen. Okay. I have mixed feelings about this. I feel like it creates an odd sort of environment where everybody's under suspicion at all times. Again, if you as the reader feel like this is not a problem, people aren't giving you suspicious answers, it's okay if you don't enforce it. Okay, it's only one. If anybody feels like enforcing it, they can. If you don't feel like it, you don't have to. Okay, if you feel like everybody's
generally kind of happened with me. It was like I needed to scratch my leg.
Yeah.
And I couldn't while like somebody else's direct. I kept my hands as once the question was done, then I was like, okay, I'm just taking my hands off and just scratch my leg.
Yeah, it's really stupid, right? A person can't scratch their legs because we have rules like this. So, yes, there is a rule, but we don't enforce it unless somebody feels the need to. And mind you, sometimes that will happen. At some point in this quiz league, we will find somebody who gives such incredibly suspicious answers that you will feel like saying, you know what, keep hands on screen at all times. Otherwise, we'll have to do something about this. I've done that after 2-3 warnings. I've basically just asked somebody to drop out because they're not keeping their hands on screen. So we can reach that point also. But starting here, please don't do that. Starting here, let everybody keep their hands wherever they want, and enforce only if you feel the need to. Okay. Take care of prompt. Like I said, a prompt is basically a mechanic for a reader to tell the participant that they're close. Okay. So you should be prompting when they've given you sort of half an answer. Okay. Again, your own judgment does matter over here. If you think that they're almost there and it might help, then you can give a prompt. And in some cases, however, if there's 2 parts of an answer and prompting over here doesn't get them necessarily close, it just tells them that it's incomplete. Okay. In that sort of situation, you might not want to prompt because you're helping the other participants. Okay. So use your own judgment, decide where it makes sense to tell the participant that you're almost there. I'll prompt you. Okay. Names of the people, this I already told you about. I told you about the plugin as well. The score sheet link is there in the draw sheet. You can extend that formula and you'll get a score sheet. Even if you don't have one, you can always just create a new one. So take any score sheet that you have, go to the settings page and simply change the settings. Okay. All of the logic, all of the state of this quiz is basically saved in the URL. So once you start the quiz, you'll notice that this URL gets longer and longer. Eventually, at the end of the quiz, I just need that URL, nothing else. Okay. So yeah, once your quiz is done, so whole quiz is done, just copy this URL, save it somewhere on your end, and either WhatsApp it to me or email it to that b612-org@googlebooks.com.
Just the URL?
Sorry?
Just the URL.
Just the URL.
Or
Yes,
nothing.
okay. So I'll show you what a URL might look like actually, just so you can see. So these are the results from first week. This is an example of one URL. Okay. You can see that there are this last sequence of characters. This is basically the buttons that were pressed. You can see correct, wrong, correct. Okay. You don't need to be able to read this, but basically if I open it in a browser, you'll see the final scores. And what's more useful for me is later on, I'll be able to see exactly what happened in this quiz, see, because of these steps.
Oh, nice.
So the URL is everything. You don't need to worry about anything else. Just copy the URL and send it to me somewhere along with your match number. And even the match number, in fact, is there in the URL. So you don't need to worry about that. Okay. Once again, you can see this group over here in the URL. It says Fundesliga because we just copied that formula. We fix that in week 2. Okay. What else? There are 3 spare questions. So this is back from when we used to copy questions into the chat. Mistakes were very common at that time. So if a mistake happens at any point in the quiz, if for some reason you need to remove a question, one example I can think of is when you're reading the question, I would advise that you read it in this web app only. If you read the question over here, do not read it from the PDF. The reason I'm saying this is as the reader, you might feel distracted if you see the answer here. Okay, if you see Azerbaijan, so parte you might say Azerbaijan, especially if there's a blank. So you remember the bench press question? You might say lie down on a, and then you'll say blank, and then you'll go on. Okay, if you notice that you have messed up a question in this way, there are some spares at the bottom, and you can use one of those just as a replacement. Okay, this is not strictly fair to everybody, but it's the only way that this can keep going. Okay. So again, this will very likely not come up since you're using the plugin now, mostly, and if you're reading over here, this will take care of itself. I think that's about it. One last thing that I'll say, because we're recording this quiz, and this is for everybody who ends up watching this. If you are a reader and if you have new quizzes in your circle, please don't comment on their answers. It is literally the worst thing you can do. If somebody gives you a wrong answer, do not explain why that answer is wrong. Okay, just say wrong and move on. If you explain why the answer is wrong, you may accidentally discourage somebody from coming for their second quiz. Okay, you are only the reader. Your only job is to conduct the quiz. At the end, you can crack a joke if you want to, but do not explain why answers are wrong. Okay, it is very patronizing. It is very discouraging. So don't do that. Okay.
What's the kill bit? Yeah, that kill option. So I know correct, pass, wrong, and what would be the kill?
In some cases, and we don't do this in our league, in MIM as well, they do this if a question goes unanswered, they simply mark it as kill. I don't know why they do that. If they do that, the last few entry options, basically what happened on that question, disappear from the URL. So when never using it, you also never need to use it. It may have some use case. I'm not sure what it is. But I've seen people basically kill a question that goes unanswered. That's not useful for us right now, so please don't do that. You only need to focus on correct, pass, and wrong. Another thing I've seen people do is when the question is a direct, so if it's a Sahil Sharma, then because it's their direct, there's no actual difference between pass and wrong, right? Because it doesn't count towards their bonus attempts. So some people I've seen, even if they give an answer, the reader sometimes clicks on pass. Okay, I would avoid doing that. Click the right button at all circumstances because it gives us better data at the end. It tells me when people felt like passing and when people felt like guessing. So if you can click on the right button, that helps us a lot with the analysis later. Okay. Any questions, Sharat and Alka?
No, nothing from my end. Like I think it's okay. Yeah.
Okay, I'll send you the URL for this plugin, and I'll send you the TSV file and the PDF file for week 2. Okay. So, thank you, Vikram. Thanks, Sharat. Bye.
Thank you.
My quiz is 9 p.m. tonight, so hopefully like